Hello and welcome everyone to the Movement Made Better podcast. We got Coach Ray with us today. Well, time to chat about Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, welcome back, man.
Nice, man.
I'm super
Nice.
excited to talk about this.
Definitely the most physically challenging thing I've done, and mentally too. For people that have never experienced altitude, it's no joke.
So how high do you get up there?
So Kilimanjaro is a little over 19,000 feet at the peak, 19,300, I think.
Yeah.
You can hear about it, you can read about it, you can talk about it, but until you experience it, I mean, it's a totally different ballgame.
What elevation did you start at?
So the gate is 7,000.
Okay.
So Arusha,
still pretty high.
Yeah, the city of Arusha itself sits at about 4,600 feet above sea level. So people that are born and raised there, I mean, you're talking centuries upon centuries of adaptation. Mm-hmm. And you see it in the porters. Like you see it. Like it's not a big deal for them. And 4,600 feet is no joke.
Yeah.
It's to be, to live and be born there. But yeah, the gate starts at 7,000. You go up to 10,000 on the first day. What kind of took me by surprise was the length of the days. They were long. You're typically going about 6 to 8 hours a day. And it's a slow pace.
Yeah. Right.
But that, like I said, that elevation is just a game changer.
Well, because you look at the map or the GPS, you're like, oh, I need to go 5 miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing is, you see that. You go, okay, well, it's 10 kilometers. Well, what's 6 miles? No big deal. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about the types of terrain that we're talking, it's not just us going out for a walk, 6 mile walk, here in Campbell, mm-hmm. right? That's no big deal. But when you're talking about the types of terrain you're going over, that's really where things get to be vastly different because you're going through tropic, jungle, then you go to desert style, arid, and then you get into the colder realms, and then you get up to that summit area. I think the thing that I was most proud about was I did strict nasal breathing the entire time.
Okay, that's awesome.
Nice.
And I thought that was one thing that I was really, just for myself, I was super proud of doing that.
Yeah.
The altitude did get to me at 15,000 feet, though.
That was actually going to be my next question. At what point during it did it really set in and kind of wear down on you a little bit?
Yeah, it was day 4, and we were getting up to so day 4, you go up to a 15,000 camp, and then you have lunch there, and then you go back down to 13,000 feet. Mm-hmm. Actually, that was day 3. I take that back. So that was kind of like, whoa. It was interesting. I had no problem. And then as we're walking towards that 15,000 camp, literally within maybe a couple hundred feet of that camp, because it sits about 15,200, mm-hmm. right when I got about 15,000 mark, it had a little bit of a dizzy spell. When I was like, oh, shit. But it cleared up. And you just eat a quick lunch. We were there for probably about 45 minutes at most. And then we head back down to 13,000 where we camped. But then the next day when we got up, we did the next 2 legs, mm-hmm. which you're doing 3 long days in a row. And then you're supposed to do 2 short climbs 2 days in a row. Then the long summit, which is really about an 18-hour day.
Wow.
That's a long day.
It is, but I think what's interesting is, so I got outvoted because I said no. I said I wanted the 2 shorter days because
acclimate, right?
Acclimate and restore, And I know, Sherry had problems with the altitude right from day 1. So she was struggling, and that was my biggest concern, was how she was going to handle it. Mm-hmm. But I got outvoted. It is what it is. But we took those two short days and crammed them into 1. So we actually summited on day 5 versus day 6. And once again, getting up to the 15 kind of took it out of me again. Mm-hmm. When we got up to base camp at 15, I was kind of like shortness of breath. Mm-hmm. I was feeling it. It was interesting. In the middle of the night, I almost bit it coming out to go to the restroom. Just the whole dizzy thing. I almost bailed. I almost bit it head first into the rocks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a real struggle. But what was interesting was starting the summit, because we started at 5 a.m. So now if we had done it the regular way with the 2 short climbs, we would have had 2 shorter days where we're only hiking for like 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And so we would have actually summited at midnight to get up there about 6:37 in the morning at the top. But we actually, with the way we broke it down, we started at 5 a.m. So it was about noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon when we got to the top. Once again, the climb up, it was no big deal. Nasal breathing, I was fine. Beautiful view. I mean, just the glaciers that you see up there. It's pristine. It really is. You look down into the crater. You know, it's been dormant for such a long time, but you can, and there are people that actually stay down in the crater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can actually camp down there.
Interesting.
Yeah, we didn't do that, but you can if you want. But I'll tell you, you know, I got to the summit and you get to the sign, and when we sat down to take photos, that's when I started to pass out. Yeah,
shit.
like I was just, eyes started closing.
Yeah.
I couldn't control it. It was weird. It kind of felt like being 21 and 22 again when you used to get drunk and stupid. And like you're kind of like, you know where you're at, but you can't really control your body. You're like, I don't really feel my body, but I know kind of idea where I'm at. It was kind of like that drunken fog.
Whoa. Okay.
So I did need help down, because what's interesting is there's a lot of loose gravel at the top, a lot. And so if I didn't have help, I would have just been like, I would have basically just rolled down the mountain. So the two porter, I'll tell you, the porter system, though, unbelievable. So we use Thompson Trek, Thompson Safaris. We really enjoyed the company's support. There were 6 of us in the group. So Sherry, myself, Henry, and Mike. And then we met up with a father-son duo from Missouri, Mike and Aaron. So for the 6 of us that were climbing, they had 36 porters.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 6-to-1 ratio. So everything from the camp managers to the cooks to everything, to your guides, to your personal porters, the system, it's just a well-run machine. And without them, I can't even imagine getting up there without them.
Because you're not really carrying much, right?
Yeah, just your day pack.
Yeah.
You
How
know?
much does that weigh?
Maybe 10 pounds,
Okay.
10, 12
So
pounds. It's just loaded
like
with water.
40 pounds you might have to carry.
No, so the day packs were supposed to be, your pack that you gave to your personal porter was supposed to be no more than 26 pounds. What I think is interesting is you break camp. So you're typically hiking by 7 in the morning.
Right.
Well, you're already starting your hike for the day, and the porters at the camp are cleaning up after you, breaking down the camp, and then zipping past you to reset your camp at your next place. So, I mean, that is so ridiculously impressive to see.
Yeah.
You know, although in the back of my head, I know it's been done before, but I really think from the gate at 7,000 to the summit, I really think with the proper training, I think I could reach that in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's very doable. Is it something I would do? I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see.
Yeah.
But my reaction to the altitude has kind of tempered that expectation too, because I really didn't expect to have that type of reaction.
And you don't know, right? Like
You don't know.
Until you get up
You know,
there.
I think what's interesting is we actually saw a park ranger getting carried down.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a guy that's born and raised in the area. And so they have ranger buildings along the way, and those are housed. You know, the rangers are staying there to keep an eye on the park. But you'll see these gurneys, these stretchers, and they got they just got one wheel on them. And they're for people that need to be
Wheeled out.
get down quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so they explained to us what they were, and not much longer after that, all of a sudden we just, behind us, just shoom, hear this gurney coming, and you know, you figure it's a climber, and then you've come to find out, no, it's one of the rangers. So the altitude can kick the shit out of anybody,
Yeah.
you know, realistically. But I know the success rate for summiting is relatively high. Depending on the website, I saw one website where they said the summiting success for Kilimanjaro was like 40%, which I was like, it seemed a little excessively low from all the groups that I saw. Pretty much a lot of people were summiting.
Yeah.
The key is not just the summiting, but what condition are you summiting in?
Yeah.
And I think that's the differential, because the amount of people that summited and had all their full facilities and full bearing, that's the small percentage.
Was anyone in your group like unfazed?
No, pretty much everybody was affected.
Yeah.
You know, Sherry needed help down. Mike needed help down. Yeah, I mean, I needed 2 porters. I couldn't even feel my legs.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was literally like I couldn't feel. Like I was trying to help on the way down. I honestly I didn't even know where I was putting my feet.
A client of mine said the same thing. He's like, it got me where like I tried to move my legs.
Mhm.
I was trying, but I could not move my legs.
Yeah,
They just weren't working.
they weren't working.
Yeah.
It was the trippiest shit. And so when you get off the peak and then you get back down to base camp, but even then it was that 15,000. It felt better
Mhm.
coming down from the 19. But yeah, that night I was still kind of. I slept really well, which I was kind of surprised. You know, not having backpacked or camped in a long, long time.
Yeah.
You know, since high school, pretty much. Sleeping was not an issue because I was just so exhausted at the end of each day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're pretty much walking, and their phrase is "poli," which is just slowly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that's not me when I hike. Like I'm a speed hiker. Like I go,
Like you're on the move.
boom.
Yeah.
Like this is point A. I want to get to point B and then back to point A.
Yeah.
So it's completely different than what I'm used to. So I had to. So what they do is they took Sherry and they put her right behind the guide,
Mhm.
and then I went behind her. So it forced me to
Slow
be in that slower pace. I'll tell you, the rest step was a huge, huge key element in being successful in the hike. And so the rest step is where you put all your weight on your down leg, then you put your next foot up on that next plateau, and then when you go to push onto that lead foot, you then rest all your weight on that lead leg.
Mhm.
So it really conserves energy. So Thompson sent us a little video email ahead of time, and that's why I saw it. And so it was kind of interesting. I tested it locally here at Quicksilver when I was hiking. I was like, oh, that shit works. Like I was like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
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 And once you see the rest step, like you see it in all the other climbing videos. When you see alpining videos, you see them using it, but until you feel it, you don't know how efficient it is.
Because it's not like you're doing a step up,
No,
right?
it's just planting, then you transfer weight, and then
Yeah.
you stop again. Boom. And you just support. So not everything is going all the time.
Mhm.
And so it really conserve energy because the way you normally hike, you're kind of lurching forward.
Yeah.
So everything's on all the time.
Yeah.
And you feel the heart rate increase, of course, you know, with that muscular demand. With the rest step, that really reduces that a lot. Yeah, that was a huge key element for me is really learning how to utilize that step. I think the one thing if I had to change it, we did it in 7 days, you know, summited on the 5th day. I'd love to see what it would be like to expand that over 2 weeks.
Mhm.
The same distance, but have more time at each camp to see if the body can acclimatize a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because you get such little time at each camp.
Yeah, it would have been interesting too if you stayed at that 7,000 foot area for like a week before too, before you even started climbing.
Before you even started climbing. Yeah. I would be interested to see. I mean, I talked to Aaron, one of the guides, and I said I would be more interested to stay at the 15,000 for a week and see what happens at 15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does my body get better at 15,000? And he said, he goes, we don't know
Yeah.
because each individual is different. So some people, yeah, it may work out for them, and others, it may still be the same thing after a week.
Yeah.
You know, so those were all different little facets. The views were spectacular. I thought what was interesting was seeing, you know, being on the southern hemisphere, you see constellations that we don't get here in the northern hemisphere.
Mm.
Oh,
You know, so
stars must have been
yeah,
insane.
so that was pretty cool. First night, I'll tell you, there was a full moon, so it was
It's
pristine.
way different.
Oh, I came out of the tent at about 3 a.m. to go use the restroom, and a full moon. It was crazy. Is at 10,000 feet. Like you're like, dude, that moon is huge.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I'm so much closer to the moon. It doesn't sound like it,
Yeah.
but visually you're like, Jesus. I didn't even need my headlamp. Like I had my headlamp on, and as soon as I got out of the tent, I was like, oh my God. So I didn't even need it.
Turn it off.
Like I could literally see where I was walking.
Because there's
Awesome.
there's no lights up there too, right?
There's no
It's
lights.
just all
There's no
moon
lights. It's all just
stars.
moonlight and stars. And then I turn around and there's Kilimanjaro. You know, you see it because you basically walk around the base of the mountain before you summit.
Okay.
That's basically what you're doing. You're going up, but you're coming around the base. So you start on the western side of the mountain, and then as you're going, you go to the eastern side of the mountain before you start your summit. And so you know it's cool over the nights to get the different perspective of the mountain at each stop, and to see the different ecosystems was pretty interesting. But that first night, I'll tell you that was beautiful. I was just like, wow. I stood there. I was just like, this is incredible.
Sounds serene.
It is incredible. You know, yeah. I don't know if I'd go back and do it again. We met somebody on the plane that he was going back for a second time.
Okay.
You know, so Henry was chatting him up for a while. We saw him out on the route. It was the age demographic was typically younger. We did have Mike in our group was older at 62. He handled it really
Mike
well.
is 62?
No, not Mike, the father and son.
62.
No, Mike's 51.
Mike is like,
No, Mike's 51.
No way.
The father and son
What's he taking?
the father and son from Missouri and what's interesting, so he's a hunter. So he travels the world hunting. And so when I was talking to him the first day, you know, I asked him, I said, do you track or do you wait? He goes, no, I'm a tracker. So I'm like, oh, you're an active hunter.
yeah.
And so, you know, he's doing mountain hiking, not to this elevation, but what was interesting because you have to take your resting heart rate and your oxygen readings every night. Mm-hmm. So they do take that, your pulse oximeter readings.
Yeah.
And his pulse oximeter readings were by far the best.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I credit that to the fact that he's constantly he's an active hunter.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't sit and wait for the prey to come to him. He goes and finds it.
And he's always on this type of terrain.
Yeah. So, you know, and so that was interesting. Even at 15,000, I think his pulse was like 72, 73.
Oh.
Which was, I mean, at that elevation,
really
because your heart is pumping faster you know, because you have less oxygen, right?
Yeah.
So your resting heart rate elevates naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But he was testing out at 72. I was like, damn, hot damn. I was like, holy shit. So out of all the people, he handled the summiting the best out of everybody. And his oxygen reading was pretty high, like 91, 90, which was really good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So if you had to go back and like train for this, do you think it would be more hiking, just doing different types of terrain, or would you do some stuff in the gym that'd be different?
No, I think it's just more just hiking. You know, I think, and I really didn't do all that much more hiking than normal, to be honest with you. In fact, Sherry, I think, would be frustrated with the fact that I did actually very little. I wasn't worried about my feet. I'm barefoot all the time, so my feet weren't an issue. Leg strength was an issue. Going downhill is basically eccentric training, which I do a lot of anyways. So the going downhill, I was probably the best condition for that out of the entire group, where everybody else was feeling that. I loved it. I was like, I actually got yelled at for going off the trail because on the way down, there were some routes that I thought was completely inefficient that the guide was taking.
Yeah.
So I was all like, bink, 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 bink. So I'd go off the route, boom, 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 boom. And so they actually called me the mountain goat because I was just going and I didn't use my trekking poles.
Yeah.
I mean, I took them, but I didn't. The only day I used them was the last day because it actually was raining and it was so muddy.
Yeah,
it was so muddy. That was the only day. Everything else, you know, I trust my hands and my feet, oddly enough, more than I do a stick.
Yeah.
You know, but ironically enough. But in this case, you know, even Penda, the lead guide, was kind of like, hey, you need to use your sticks. And I told him, I said, dude, no. I said, I trust my hands and my feet more. Like, I know where my weight distribution is. I know where that's going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did get kind of chastised to make sure that I stayed, because as we got a little bit higher, more technical, you know, it's like, hey, make sure you stay in line. Don't have, you know, because we don't want anybody else to see where you're going and then take your lead and get hurt.
Right.
I said, okay, I understand that, you know, so it's kind of out of line there.
So then at what elevation, like, you know, you needed help getting back down, but at what elevation did your legs go, boom, I'm back?
Yeah, right at 15,000 going down from 15,000, you go down to 10,000 on day 6. I was fine.
Yeah.
I was completely fine going down. No big deal. And then you go from 10,000, you camp at 10,000, and then the gate was technically at 6,000 feet.
Okay.
So that was, and then I said the last day there was raining, and that rain was going up the mountain, became snow and ice. So you take crampons, and I was kind of anticipating using them, and I was really kind of disappointed that I didn't get to use them. All right, because the temperature wise, I think the top of the mountain was maybe 20, 25 degrees.
Okay.
Shorts and t-shirt weather for me.
Yeah.
Like that's like this,
Yeah.
Like most like Penda and Aaron, they were like, "Are you warm enough?" And I'm like, "Dude, not an issue."
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny because they kept saying, "Oh, what are you from Minnesota?" And I was like, "No, I'm from Buffalo. It's even worse."
Yeah.
Right? Like this is not a big deal for me, right? You know, so they're like, because everybody else, they're like, no, normally everybody else is layering up, and I'm layering down. Like I'm taking layers off. I definitely overpacked, but I guess in hindsight, you know, better to overpack than underpack, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the gloves, I didn't need them. I mean, I just used the finger liners, the real thin liners. That's all I needed the entire time, even at the summit. Temperature wise, not a big deal. The cold gear from Under Armour worked perfectly fine. Yeah, cold wasn't an issue. It was just, you don't want to get wet. You want to make sure you stay dry. So that's the biggest thing, is making sure that you're staying dry. The last day down, I got wet because I didn't really care because we were finishing up anyways.
Yeah.
So, but on the way up, it's interesting because you go through so much mist at the start. And so it was a light rain and mist. So I had a poncho on, but I took that off relatively quickly because you start getting really hot.
Yeah.
On your way up.
Yeah, because you don't want your feet to get soaked either.
No, feet were warm. Shout out to Vivo Barefoot. I'll tell you, the hiking boots that I got from them, fantastic. Great hiking boots. Really enjoyed them. Just them and a pair of wool socks. I was good.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. You know, the temperature wise and yeah, my feet stayed dried. So that wasn't an issue there.
Okay.
The food was good. Edison was our camp chef. He was cooking it up. I think what's interesting is at 15,000 feet, I did not want to eat, though. I literally did not want to eat. I had to kind of force myself to eat. Edison made soup every night, which is really the first night we got to 15,000, I didn't eat at all. I just wanted to sleep.
Yeah.
Like I knew we had taken day 4 and day 5 and plugged them together. And so right when I got to camp, I was like, dude, I know I'm going right to sleep because I knew we were taking off at 5 a.m. And it was already coming up to about 5 p.m. So I knew we had a little less than 12 hours before we were going to start hiking again. And so food was not on my mind. Rest was. Like I wanted sleep.
Yeah.
And so I know Penda came in and said, hey, you need to eat. I said, no, I need to sleep. You know, I got to get my reserves in here. Breakfast. It was really difficult for me to eat. Like I did not want to.
That's interesting.
Like I saw food and my brain just said no. Like it was just like no.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like I trying to choke down a piece of toast, and they made this local porridge, which was pretty tasty. But honestly, by day 4, I was over it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you know, like yeah. But they gave us dried fruit and some other stuff to help us along the way, and of course, water. Making sure you're drinking plenty of water. So you're typically drinking 3 to 4 liters a day.
Okay.
Making sure you're fully hydrated. That was the thing. So you're constantly as you're trekking, you know, the lead guide would stop and say, okay, sip. You know, making sure that you're constantly drinking. Like you full on stop and to make sure that you're drinking and drinking and drinking.
What about anything to take to handle the elevation better? I know there is stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we took our medications. I mean, we went to the local travel clinic. You know, they gave us altitude medication. And I took that all the way up until the summiting day.
Yeah.
And yeah, like even that, it still didn't kind of
do much for you.
Do much for me.
Yeah.
You know, but you kind of wonder, would it have been worse if I hadn't taken it?
Yeah,
maybe.
Like there's that thought in your head of how much worse would this be if I hadn't taken the altitude medication, right? If you're going to go climb something like that, I think, you know, definitely take it just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not getting any side effects really. The one thing we took that we didn't need was malaria pills.
Mm.
I mean, because you're at higher elevation anyways, mosquitoes really aren't around.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a waste. I was not thrilled about that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And when you're up on the mountain, insects, you're like, I don't even. Yeah.
So I got a question for you then. So psychologically, how much did your psychological aspect or fortitude change as you were going along?
For me, it was just telling myself every step I take gets me closer,
Mhm.
and that for me is the thing. It's just every step you take. I know Mike, Aaron, sorry, the son from the father and son duo. He asked me on day 4. He said, "Is any of this difficult for you?" And I said, "Physically, no." I said, "It's not. Physically, this isn't an issue." I said, "Just because I hadn't hit that altitude yet.
Right.
I hadn't experienced that yet.
Yeah.
But as far as terrain and handling it physically, honestly, piece of cake."
Mhm.
But mentally, it was just such a long day. We're just not used to hiking like that.
Yeah.
I mean, 7, 8 hour days. Who does that, right?
Mhm.
Unless you're doing the PCH, or the PCT, or if you're on the East Coast, you do the Appalachian Trail, right? But other than that, I mean, who really walks that much over different types of terrain, X amount of days in a row? We just don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, fatigue wise, you're just like, you get to the point where it's kind of like you revert back to being a kid again with traveling with your parents in the car. Where you're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? It's kind of funny. I come to realize that the guides were full of shit. Because the guides do that whole thing of, oh, we're almost there.
I hate that.
And you're like, no, you're full of shit. We're not almost there. So don't tell me I'm almost there, because then you're setting me up for shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me it's a long ways away.
Yeah.
Give me the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
If I say, I'd rather have somebody tell me, oh, we're 4 hours away, and then 2 hours later, oh, we're here. Not just, oh, it's right around the corner. F off. 3 hours later, I'm like, I thought you said it was right around the corner. Well, I think what psychologically is, on some of the camps, you would see them, and it's that whole Vegas optical illusion effect, where when you're in Vegas, you see a casino and it's right there. But that right there is 1.5 miles, right?
Yeah.
Right? And so same thing here. You see the camp, but then you realize, oh shit, we got to go down and then back up. Right? Or we're going down, around over here, and then coming back around to get to the camp.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can visually see the camp, but you don't realize that you got 3 to 4 miles and then elevation gain and then de-elevating in between.
Yeah.
And that's what psychologically just kind of can wear on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just that whole constant time of just telling, and just saying it out loud to people sometimes too, saying it to the group. Hey, every step gets you closer. Every step is going to get you just to that next point. And, I think that for me is really the defining thing there, is just that meant that fortitude to be able to tell yourself, hey, just keep going, just keep pushing, just keep pushing.
I feel like that's probably where the hardest part would be. Because I had a couple who did Kilimanjaro 4 years ago. And he did over the course of 2 weeks, actually.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and he had a great time.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about him having troubles, but he's someone who does a lot of like high altitude kind of stuff. But I feel like that would be the most challenging part, is trying to figure out like, okay, where am I at mentally? How much fortitude do I have? Am I mentally or psychologically strong enough to like push through the hard shit? Because the physical fatigue, that's something it happens.
Yeah.
But like the mental fatigue is something that's really, really hard to overcome, I feel like.
No, it is. And that was the thing is, that doing that same climb over 7 days versus 2 weeks, world of difference, right?
Oh yeah.
Massive difference. So that's why if I went back, like it'd be interesting to do it over 2 weeks and see how different is it, right? Because then you're going in shorter segments, right?
Yeah.
And you have more time to sit at different elevations and get used to it.
Same time, it's 2 weeks on a mountain.
It is still 2 weeks on a mountain, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've never smelled so bad in my life. Oh, Jesus. 7 days of not showering. Oh, my God.
Showering was probably the best thing you've ever
That shower I got back to the hotel, I'll tell you,
Stayed
it was
an hour.
it was a half
Sorry,
hour
Sherry.
shower.
You got next.
Sherry went first, and it was interesting. The hotel that they took us to after the climb was beautiful. It's fantastic. The shower was just phenomenal. It was huge. But I was like, oh, this is the greatest shower I've ever taken in my life.
Yeah. Oh,
It was half hours, just standing there. I just didn't want it to stop.
I would have jumped in a damn bath, man. Shoot.
Yeah. I think what's interesting from a physical standpoint,
Mhm.
when you do a climb like this, it really challenges a lot of the limited movement perspective that a lot of the strength and conditioning community has, in my opinion. We know the people out there that are telling you that only a certain amount of range of motion is necessary to train. You haven't been on a mountain.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
If you tell me that I only need to train this much range of motion, your ass needs to go on a mountain and your ass will be vastly different in the mindset.
Oh,
Totally.
yeah.
Because, I know I'm short and I got the short femurs, but I did more single leg pistols than I've ever did in my life. Because you have such gaping strides to take. And huge, you got this rock that you got, okay, my best foothold is up here. And so that hip mobility really comes into play. It's a huge necessity. And to challenge, like we've always talked about, we're so used to walking on flat surfaces.
Yeah.
That we just don't get challenged by different stimuluses of terrain.
Yeah.
And when you're hiking on a mountain, you get all that. Like you're getting that frontal plane and transverse motion at the ankle and the tibial rotation at the knee. Like you get that. Like there's no way to avoid it. If you're not ready for it and if you don't prepare for it, you're going to start to feel the results of it.
Yeah.
You'll hear a couple of the people going, oh, my knee's kind of, I'm feeling it. Right. And so, as you're hearing that from some of your group, you're thinking, okay, well, it's because you just don't train in those positions and those angles.
Yeah.
But I was amazed at how many times I was basically doing a single leg pistol to get from one step to the other, And there was a stretch called the Bronco Wall where you're basically doing bouldering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you are doing some bouldering. They have a section that's called Kiss the Wall because you got to go sideways and you're basically face first into the stone.
Like a slab climb.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And when they first described it, I was kind of like, well, you didn't tell us to bring any carabiners, so we're not clipping in. So, I tend to have that worst case scenario, prepare for the worst, and everything else will be good after that. So I was kind of thinking in my mind, well, how wide is that foothold going to be? Where if you're kissing the wall, where you got to lean into the rock, what are we talking about here, right? And are people falling off this thing? Because if you are, you're about 500 feet off the ground if you're going to fall, right? So, but the kiss the wall part, like I said, you set something up in your mind of, okay, this may be super hard. Foot position may be really small where you got to where you have to externally rotate out and basically do a Charlie Chaplin walk.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that. But you're still kind of leaning in, but the bouldering was fun.
Okay.
Well, especially since you guys both have rock climbing experience.
Yeah. And so that was the fun part, Sherry was all like, well, I dig this, so you're using, people are typically using their trekking poles and then you get to a certain point on the wall and then the guide tells you, okay, put your trekking poles away. You need your hands, you gotta, your hand holds are really key there.
Okay.
So you're getting into some funky positions to get up.
So does this make you want to do something bigger or something more technical?
Yeah, I do, just out of sheer curiosity. On this continent, you're looking at Denali, right? About 24,000 feet.
Yeah, that one's much more technical.
Way more technical.
Like you'd have to build up to that, like do Mount Rainier.
Well, that's also stuff but that's where I'd have to take alpining courses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I go up to Shasta, you can go during the wintertime and get those courses set up. So that's something where, I would have to be a much more technical climber in that regards, right? You know, that's where you're using your carabiners and your ice picks and your crampons.
Yeah.
You know, but that is something I just out of sheer curiosity, I think I'd like to do just to see. I think that would you to have more time to spend on the mountain,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, with your guides. I don't know if you'd have the full support system like we had available to us over in Kilimanjaro. Like I said, I mean, that was a great support system.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think out of sheer curiosity, there's still that part of my mind that says, okay, was that issue at 19,000 feet more of an aberration, or is it really a thing for me?
Yeah.
You know, even getting back on the plane, coming back, I still felt the results of the altitude. You know, I mean, yeah, the airplane cabin is pressurized, but your body still knows it's not the same pressure as down at sea level or where we live at. So, you know, the plane was at about 41,000 feet of at altitude on the way back. And I did have some bloody noses. You know, I did have some issues there on the way back, sinuses plugging up. So I was still feeling the effects even 2 days, because we got done on Monday and we flew out on Wednesday, which at the time when the airline postponed the flight, I was kind of annoyed, but it actually turned out to be the best thing, because I can't imagine, because we were originally scheduled to come off the mountain on that Monday morning and jump on the plane Monday evening.
Oh.
And let me tell you, I can't even imagine. They would have been like, do you need help?
Yeah.
Because it was just so tiring. Like, we got to the hotel and you were exhausted. Like, you just shower and sleep.
Yeah.
Like, let me shower, sleep, and eat.
Because like all that adrenaline probably just went away.
Yeah. And so it was interesting. Mike and Aaron, they had to jump right. They got a day room. So they were scheduled to leave at like 5 o'clock in the evening. So we got to the hotel at about 11 o'clock. And they had to shower, get freshened up, and then basically just head back to the airport. And they were on their flight back to,
So you didn't do the safari then at all?
No, I needed to recover. I just needed to recover. We talked about it, but no, it was 7 hard days mentally and physically. I needed to just do nothing and just recover.
Okay.
And it felt good. But even on that Wednesday coming back, it was still pretty fatiguing.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot. I mean, shoot, man. What is that, like a 30-hour trip?
Yeah, I mean, it was 6 hours from Arusha to Doha. Then we had a 9-hour layover in Doha, and then 16 hours from Doha to SFO. I mean, luckily we paid for the business class, so that was huge. I can't even imagine flying economy on the way back. Oh, there's no way. I would have killed I would have been like, oh,
That's where you just don't take a shower before you get on. And clear the way.
I'll roll it myself.
It was interesting. It's kind of funny because the airport at Arusha is so small. But yeah, it's kind of funny to see all these people just packing in to take their flights out. Yeah, but most people there at the airport were either doing Kilimanjaro or they were there to do safaris.
Yeah.
But I think most of the people were there to do the safaris. So I think, the fewer people were there to do Kilimanjaro. Like I said, the demographic was typically younger. We did see a guy on the mountain. He was 72.
Dang.
Yeah, I think he made it up. I mean, I didn't see him on the way down, but I think he made it to the top. But yeah, for the most part, it was a younger demographic. But
That's awesome.
It was a life-changing experience. I think it's something that I think you try it just to see what it's about. Our guide Penda, like he was saying, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, and that's very true. And so I think it still leaves me that little bit of curiosity. There are other things that I do want to do. Antarctica is still on my bucket list. But to be able to hit an elevation that I think very few people will ever experience, I think was unique.
Yeah, man.
Well,
I've been up is like 14.
Well, you did, yeah. On your honeymoon, you were
rock climbing around 14,000 feet. So that's the most effortful thing I've done at a high elevation.
Yeah,
I was okay at that height, but I don't know. Like, hey, an extra 900 feet, maybe everything changes.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is unique, is because in your mind you're like, it's just what's this 900 feet? Like, what can happen, right? Yeah. And that was my mindset too. Is like, I'm at 14,000. I'm like, I'm feeling great. oh, we're going to, there's our camp at 15,000. We're going to have lunch. And then all of a sudden just as I'm getting to that precipice and just getting to that 15,000, just all of a sudden, boom. I was just like, holy shit. You're walking. Then all of a sudden you're just like, you got to catch yourself because you're like, whoa, holy shit. Did I just get dizzy right there? You're like, I did. It's like, you're like, wow.
It has to be hella trippy.
It is
hella
A little
trippy.
scary
Because
too.
like it's so sudden.
it was so sudden, and that's what I think is the unique part about it was it just came out of clear blue. Where everybody else in the group was already experiencing stuff, and I hadn't. So that's why in my mind I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
But then to get to the 15,000 and also just have it literally punch me like a freight train.
Crazy.
And then
hang out at $14.99 all day.
yeah. Let's say like I can hang out at that 14,000, and it was no big deal. 13,000, 14,000 feet, but who cares? No big deal, right? I mean, you figure Mount Whitney's about 14,000, right?
Yeah, that's the highest one besides Denali.
Besides Denali, right? Whitney, I could do it in a heartbeat. Like I don't have any issues doing that. Like the altitude thing is not going to be an issue for me if I decide to do that. But to get past that 15,000 barrier, I asked Aaron too, one of the guides. I said, "How many times could you do Kilimanjaro?" He said, "I can handle this 3 times a month." I was like, "No shit." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "If I go up, come down," he goes, "give me about a day or 2 of rest, and I'll be right back up."
Damn.
Jeez.
So the way the company rotates it though is the guides only get 1 run a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if he did want to do another run, he'd have to go to another company and do that run. But when him and I were talking, he goes, but if it was just me and I had to go back up, he goes, yeah, I can handle this 3 times a month.
So what did he look like physically? Was he just super lean?
Yeah, super lean, short. I think Aaron, I'm 5'3". Aaron was probably about 5 foot.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's carrying a pack of, 26, 30 pounds. And, and he even took Sherry's pack on too when she was having issues. And he's fine.
Cool.
Like, it was cool as a cucumber. And a lot of these porters, they're carrying stuff on their heads. So you're seeing, like what we talked about DJ with the neck training, the jaw training, right? Well, in Arusha, a lot of people are walking around with stuff balancing on their heads. And so you see these porters, they're just up and down the mountain. They got packs on and they got something on top of their head. And they're hauling ass.
Fly up there too.
They're hauling ass.
Yeah.
In sneakers. Regular sneakers. Like I'm looking, do they have hiking boots on? Some of them had some hiking boots, but most of them had just regular sneakers. There were a couple female porters. Most of them were the men, but there were a couple female porters. And you'll see some taking breaks. They still stop and take breaks, but they'll cover that distance. So if you got a 6-hour hike, they'll cover that in 3, if not less.
That's impressive.
Oh, it is.
That's super impressive.
And some of them at some points are kind of running, like a light jog. Like they pass you and they're just gone. Like a few minutes later, they're just out of your view. And it is a really impressive to see that adaptability and to see that skill set. I think is really mind boggling when you see it in person. And they're happy. Like they're just, they're just chumming along. Yeah. But for the money that they get paid, I'll tell you, it's because Arusha is still in many respects a third world country, and I think the yearly average income is about 4,000 US. Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a lot at all. We pooled our money together for the majority of the porters. You got, you pay your guides, your lead guide and your 2 assistant guides. Then you pay Edison, the chef, and his 2 waiters. So you tip them all individually, plus your personal porters. So my personal porter was his name was Jeter. So we paid them separately, but then we all pool your money together to pay the other porters, the camp manager and the other ones. And I think that ended up being like $50 a head.
Okay.
Well, so I'm thinking to myself, I'm going, holy shit, these guys are doing this for $50 American.
For 7 days.
For 7 days.
Crazy.
Damn.
For 7 days. But to them, that's a lot of money.
Right. Because
that's a lot of money to them.
For them, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I think is the craziest thing. It kind of puts it into perspective of how good we have it.
Yeah.
Like these
yeah.
guys are literally climbing up the side of a mountain, carrying shit on their heads, carrying shit on their backs, setting up the camp, breaking it down, doing all this. And what's interesting is the porters they eat what you don't eat, what Edison made for us, whatever we didn't eat, the porters had to eat it or they ate it.
Oh.
But the majority of them, every meal, they take maize flour, corn flour, and they boil it with water, and they create this, I guess, kind of like it's kind of like a mashed potato type texture.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Henry and I actually went into the mess tent to see them making food for themselves.
Isn't that like a superfood? That maize flour?
I guess so, because that's all they eat.
Okay.
Huh.
That's all they eat the whole time. So they make this huge pot of it, and that's what they're eating.
Probably just makes you appreciate everything much more.
Oh, yeah, for
It's
sure.
like people are here arguing about exercises on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what makes me laugh. Is because, well, and we know that typically most people in the United States are the least traveled out of any industrialized country. We are the least traveled, and that is a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
But and typically when we travel, we tend to go to other countries that are kind of at our standards.
Yeah.
But when you go, that's why I encourage people to go to countries that aren't at our standards. To go to a country where, they make 4,000 in a year, right? I mean, you're talking $300+ a month. That's what you're making US. And to still see how people live life through that, and the things that they do. And it puts you in a perspective where you're like, a lot of the shit that we argue about here, you're kind of like, waste of time.
Yeah. It's pointless.
Pointless.
Completely
Pointless, right? And so that's why, when we go on social media, I don't acknowledge, people can say what they want. I don't give a shit. I just don't care.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to get caught up in that stuff because it's pointless. It's useless. You have your opinion. If you don't like what I post, then don't like what I post. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's obviously not for you. Maybe it'll be for you at a later time. Great. Maybe it never will. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. But when you go to these places and you see what else is out there and how they're living, you're like, whew.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is over in Arusha, taxis are like motorcycles.
Yeah.
So if you flag one down, you don't know if the guy's drunk or not. Yeah, because I mean, Aaron was kind of explaining it to us. He goes, don't take those. He goes, because you don't know if you're getting on the back of someone that's shit faced.
Damn.
Because they actually kind of rent those bikes from the owner.
Oh.
And so they have to make a certain amount of money each day to cover the cost of the bike. And then he said a lot of times these guys with the money on top of that, they'll just turn around and buy booze. And so they'll be sitting there drinking by the roadside, and all of a sudden you want to catch a motorcycle taxi. Oh shit, you may be on the back of somebody's that's just 3 sheets to the wind.
Damn.
So you do it early in the day.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes it.
But when you go to these hotels and these resorts, they've got their own drivers.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So you're not dependent on that. But it is. When you see the way the villages and the towns are set up, it is. It's a very eye-opening thing, and you see how happy a lot of these people are with such little stuff that they have.
Yeah.
And then we come over here and we bitch about a lot of shit that just frankly isn't just even worth bitching about a lot of times. We have it pretty good.
Yeah, we got it pretty damn good.
We got it pretty
I don't
damn
think
good.
people realize that. But but people don't know what they don't know. To a degree.
Yeah.
There's things to be thankful for, things to be appreciative of, but if that's not your lifestyle for you, if you live a life of excess, then that's what you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you complain and bitch about everything that you wish you had or whatever the case is. If you go somewhere else, that style of living is different. It's just different.
Yeah. I mean, you see people that are probably, you see some of these shops and you're just all like, oh my God, butcher shops. And what's interesting, so the meat's just hanging and it's, and what's interesting over there, each butcher shop is different. because one butcher shop will only do beef. One butcher shop will only do chicken and pork, right? But you're literally like, I would never buy meat from that place. Like, you're just all like, eesh, you know? And then when we went down to downtown Arusha, it's like, for me, like when I love to go outside my hotel, bookmark my hotel, I know where it is, and then I'll pick a direction and I'll just walk, you know? And I've been okay doing that. I haven't walked in any, I'm sure I've been in areas where I guess I shouldn't be, but I've been fine with it. But this was a city where I was just like, I don't know if I do that. Like, I'm good. Like, we saw Omar Gaddafi, his picture on some vans. Like, I thought that was pretty interesting.
What?
Yeah. I was like, holy shit, that's Omar Gaddafi. You know, I thought that was pretty interesting on a couple of vans. They supported him. Some people there supported him. But yeah, it was a unique trip. It was well worth it. And for people that want to maybe have even a slight inkling, I think you got to try it. You know, I would definitely recommend taking a longer time. So if you have access to doing it over 10 days or 14 days, I would recommend doing it for a longer period. Yeah. But to do it shorter, like a 6-day, 5-day, that's really, I think, pushing it for a lot of people, especially if you're not used to it. It'll probably kick the shit out of you. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe we'll see what happens next. Maybe another mountain, or like I said, Antarctica is still on my bucket list.
Well, Denali is 24,000. You'd probably have to do like Everest base camp before that, even, because I think that's lower.
So Everest, the first Everest base camp is like 17.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it'd be curious just to do that, just to see how you do, or I do, at 17,000. You're right between that right in that middle wheelhouse. Like, I think it'd be unique just to do that. And I think after 17, I think the next camp 2, I think is at 22 or 23,000.
Okay.
Yeah. I know the last one, I think, is at 27 or 28. That last camp before you hit the roof. But yeah, I think 17 and 23 or 24. But that's a big jump from 17 to 23 to 24.
I wonder how
It's like a
that would
30%
take you a
jump.
while to get
Right?
there. Yeah, because the terrain there's
The terrain's, yeah.
way different
Yeah.
from what I've seen.
Yeah. So the gap there, I was like, that's a hell of an elevation climb
Yeah.
from 17 up to there. But yeah, even sitting at 17, it'd be, I think it'd be unique just to sit there for a week and see how you handle it.
Yeah.
You know, the sun was definitely another thing I kind of underestimated too.
Oh,
So yeah, my face, I couldn't touch my upper lip for like 2 days.
Oh,
It was so
Were
sore.
they like cracking?
Oh,
and everything?
cracked and painful. Oh my God. For like 2 days. Because you're just expelling so much snot. And so Vaseline for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you got to just constantly just keep. But even then, between the wind and the sun, it was just, like I said, I couldn't touch my upper lip for like 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
It was so
Did you wear a
sore.
hat or anything?
I had a sun hat.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I had a sun hat, and it's still like, holy shit. I couldn't believe it. My face was, it's kind of funny because you see people that are mountaineering, and you see them at the top, and you know, they take their goggles off, and you see those raccoon eyes. Yeah, like you see it, but until you experience how sore that is to your face, you're like, like you're touching your face. You're like, holy shit, it hurts to touch my face.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, and then your upper lip, because you're just constantly expelling. Because you're not stopping to blow your nose, you're just blowing snot rockets the whole time as you're walking. Because you expel and you walk. You just keep constantly in motion. But it was just rubbing so raw, and it was brutal.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
No, and even the SPF, like you're so much closer to the sun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You burn hella quick.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, you get so burnt so quick. Oh yeah, but yeah, just that it was just, once again, stuff that we kind of just don't think about when we live just a little above sea level.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, but when you close that gap, even by 14,000 feet, that makes a world of difference in temperature, sun exposure. Yeah, it's definitely a game changer.
It's awesome. Thanks for sharing all that stuff.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Like I said, it was a fun experience. It was taxing. It was grueling. Sense of accomplishment is definitely there. And so we'll see what happens after this.
Right.
So it'll be a while till I do another mountain.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. I think the next thing I have on my list before even Antarctica is bobsledding and luge.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so that you can do in Park City, Utah.
Okay.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
So that's my next one.
Sounds
I think
fun.
because that's something I've always wanted to do: luge, skeleton, and bobsled.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got groups. You can that Park City, Utah, from the Olympic setup is still there. They still use that.
Cool.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, so you can go like December, January, and still use that stuff. And they'll teach you how to. I guess they teach you. So they'll start you at like a third at the bottom third of the track, just so you kind of get a feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on how you handle it, they may let you go higher up the track to gain more speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, ever since I was
Yeah.
a kid, ever since I've seen that, I've always been like, I will do that one of these days. So
That'd be fun.
yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun. They have a dry summer run,
Uh-huh.
run, but it's on rails. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I want the frozen actual.
The whole experience.
I want the whole experience. Yeah. I think that'd be some fun shit. So, well, thank you for joining us for this podcast. And until next episode, be good to each other. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and whatever platform you're on, either Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, please, if you could leave a review, we'd appreciate that. If you have any questions that we can answer for you, be sure to leave those in the comments also.
If you're looking for more information on our education, our products, please go to www.stickmobility.com.
And also hit that subscribe button to that YouTube channel. And don't forget our live Instagram classes 3 times a week. If you want to join in, grab your sticks and hit that 45-minute class.